in terms of talking to people.
Okay, setting up records that were going to be made, or is that what you mean?
I mean, Ken and Bill and Marion all did that.
Okay.
But Marion kind of like, she is an attractive woman.
Yeah.
And, I think, she definitely was important in, communicating with artists.
Right.
And that was the most that she did actually in terms of the running of the business. I mean, Ken eventually found himself, Ken really got into production and engineering.
Right.
Oh yeah. Like and Marion, I don't know what she's doing now, but she ended up in New Orleans and married.
Yeah.
I don't know where she is or what she does now, but
well, she's up there. I mean, I hear the same things from current. They're current employees who don't quite know what she does, except she's an owner and their boss.
Yeah, right. Of course, in those days, there wasn't boss.
Right.
But also because Ken and she had this sort of relationship going.
Right.
That if the two of them agreed on a certain point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, you could bet that was going to happen.
Now, was the record production an overtly political project in their mind? We are putting out the records of the people, that sort of thing, or was the politics limited to their business organization?
Yeah, I think in some cases, yes. Like the 4000 series.
Right.
If you're familiar.
I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I mean,
what
those
they call
are
the protest
statements, and it may be that there would be no other record company in the country that would put those out.
Right, but even beyond that, was there considered to be was the putting out of the records of the rural South considered by them, or a political statement in and of itself?
In my opinion, I would not think so.
Okay,
I think it was the love of the music.
You don't recall them viewing that aspect of what they did as being political.
The love of the music.
Okay.
And the wanting to make it available.
Right.
But now I will say that there was a huge, constant amount of discussion, which eventually ended. But there was always a discussion about authenticity.
Okay.
And that's I think where the 3000 series came in.
The singer-songwriter, essentially. Yeah. Well, Mud Acres was one of the.
Yeah.
Were you around when that came out?
2001. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's where eventually that was the case, and then the distinctions got muddier and muddier.
Right. Now they created the 3000s. Why is that? When you say the 3000 series came in around that discussion, what do you mean? How did it play into that discussion?
Yeah. Well, I think that the issue that the Zero series, everything started, or the Blues series started with what one might call authentic music.
Right. I know exactly.
Traditional music.
Yeah.
Although, like with someone like Highwoods,
yeah.
You've got suburban kids.
Or country cooking.
Yeah. You got suburban kids.
Yeah.
Playing old time music.
Right.
Whereas clearly, the 3000 series was not in any way. No attempt was ever made to say that was traditional music.
Was there a debate about putting that out, for example?
I don't remember. If there was,
okay.
Either I wasn't there or I don't remember it.
Okay.
There was big debate about George Thorogood.
Right. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there was a big debate about it because Bill liked it. I mean, actually, Bill liked it.
Right.
And used to go see Thorogood, every chance he got. Because he played in Boston from time to time. And,
sure.
And I had actually, I remember on one discussion, I was, I think, the only person who came out against doing Thorogood. And I think Ken and Marion just looked at it from an economic perspective.
Really?
Which was clearly a good one.
Yeah.
I mean,
did they like the music at all, or neutral?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But yeah. So those are.
Was Bill, in your sense, more political than the other two?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, we were still involved in as time went by, kind of less and less.
Okay.
Just because the time had changed.
What was the attitude toward profitability? I mean, was that considered desirable or bad, or desirable because it would get you to put out more records, or or suspect?
Yeah, I don't have any real real memories,
right.
discussions around that.
Right.
I remember when we bought the first Rounder vehicle, we bought a van.
Okay.
And, we had this big debate about whether to pay cash for it, or, because we could,
right.
or to get it, on some 2-year loan thing.
Right.
And, at that point, we started crunching numbers, I think mostly Bill and me, and it became apparent that because of the income that Rounder was generating, it was more to our interest to pay off a loan on the car at whatever percent than to buy it with cash up front.
Okay.
Because our cash was worth more.
Yes.
Investing it in records to distribute and produce and stuff like that. So that was a definite, very, very, interesting discussion. And then we bought another van.
But Ken and Marion were willing to do that, and that reasoning swayed them.
Yes.
Okay.
I think at some point there may have been a kind of not, I think, so much a resistance to making money as a resistance to fitting into the scheme of, the American economic system.
I see. Okay.
That we wanted to be different from that.
Right. Okay.
And that's what the collective was, and that's why we worked kind of the way that we did.
Right. How are you doing on time? Because I could talk some more. I just want to know.
I can talk a few more minutes.
Okay.
And shortly after I left, the warehouse came along.
Right.
And my leaving Rounder really was based sort of on my own sort of moral, righteousness. I was furious at Ken.
Okay.
One great little incident that we had where Ken was saying, well, what are we going to tell everybody? Because I'd been there for 2 years.
I see.
Been an integral part of Rounder, and we'd gone out to the first NAIRD conference. We drove cross country together,
okay,
California and back,
God,
making records as we went in this van that we bought.
And
there was sort of joking about that. Would be like, which of the two of us would survive?
Oh, it was just you and Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Would we both come back? Which we did. We worked through stuff. We were quite different personalities. And but there was a lot of joking about that. But yeah. So anyway, we're getting ready to leave. Ken says, "Well, what am I going to tell? What am I going to tell people when they ask why you've gone?" Well, Ken, why don't you just tell them that I went crazy and I tried to kill you? And then I left. I was just, I was morally outraged.
Right.
And he was concerned about Rounder's image, of course.
Well, how did you react? And you were gone, but how did you? I don't know. You can jump into how much contact you had with them afterwards. But I'm wondering how you reacted to the unionization problem that followed the Thorogood success.
I read about that. My uncle, who lives up in Greater Boston, sent me a copy of that article. And I just laughed my head off.
Was this in the Globe? Or?
Yeah, I think it was in the Globe.
I'm talking about back in the 70s, because there was another recent issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just laughed my head off. I just laughed my head. I just thought it was just hilarious. And, just desserts and anything else,
I mean, did you know they resisted it? Was
the union effort?
Yeah, they resisted the union effort.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why I thought it was funny.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, because coming from the quote-unquote collective, framework.
Right.
And, all of the, vanguard of the proletariat rhetoric. And,
sure.
This and that and the other thing and political posturing.
Right.
I thought it was just absolutely hilarious.
Did you ever get any insight into their thinking about it? Is it from Bill or anybody else? Nothing at all. Okay.
I only had one, after I left in '76. And actually, Bill and I traveled to Belize together and Honduras.
Right.
That was fun. I remember one night we spent in a totally scorpion-infested place.
Right.
Down in Belize. What was the name of that town? Independence. Yeah, yeah. And see, because I had lived in Belize for 2 years.
Okay.
So, we went back together.
And when did
that was after, I believe that was after this whole blow-up.
Okay.
Actually, because I still like Bill. I mean, I still like Bill. I actually saw him in June for the first time in, 8 or 10 years.
Really?
And it was real nice.
And that was where?
Up in Boston. I went up for a reunion. And, we spent an evening together.
Uh-huh.
He had his son with Emmett with him.
Right, I've met Emmett, yeah.
And I was with my wife, and,
Uh-huh.
we had a real pleasant evening, and I was glad to see him. He looked good. And
Yeah.
he, it's not the happiest time in his life right now.
Right, I understand.
But, and we've emailed a lot over the last year or two.
Sure.
So, and I still feel very positively towards Bill. And actually, Ken, in my own personal world,
Yeah.
Ken has been someone that took me years, literally years, to work through. No, I'm serious. My anger towards him. I mean, which is, of course, some manifestation of something in me.
Well, he's got this kind of passive intensity to him, is how I've described it in some way.
I mean, he's very intense.
Yeah.
All of this, this nervous energy thing, which
Right.
at least used to manifest itself in his rubbing of his face,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and all that stuff, and,
Mhm.
and dry skin and all this stuff. But no, really, for years, I've sort of gotten in some sort of spiritual mode,
Mhm.
over my life, and Ken was something I had to work on.
Right.
And I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I was finally able to think about Ken without getting angry.
Have you seen him since the 70s?
Yeah, I have, actually, and it was quite interesting. Last year at the National Heritage Awards, Hazel
Right, Hazel, yeah.
got the award,
Yeah, uh-huh.
and also Joe Wilson,
Right.
who, is a good, I worked with Joe for 3 years.
Okay, yeah, he's from East Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah, and I've known Joe, for many years,
Okay.
and I love Joe, and he got the award.
Okay.
So I went up, and, I usually stay with Joe when I'm in D.C. And,
Uh-huh. I've interviewed Joe for this project.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, so, and we used to have our laughs about Rounders together, Joe and I, but anyway, and Ken. But, and so, Ken was there, and so, I went over and said hello, and I actually told him, said something to him to the effect of, that, I was glad to see him, and I was, glad that Rounder was doing well, and that, I felt, I just felt perfectly comfortable talking to him.
Right.
So that's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
On my part.
Do you remember any records as being particularly significant to you or the company when you were there?
I love the Highwoods.
Uh-huh.
And part of the reason I love the Highwoods is that they would come stay at the house.
I see.
In Somerville. Because, mostly that's what I did, was be at the house.
Be at the house.
Those guys would all come and
Mac Benford.
Yeah, and one of the guys, what's his name, was actually from the suburb that I grew up in.
Walt Hoken, who else was I don't remember all the names.
Yeah, well, it might come through while we're talking.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he grew up in the same suburb I grew up in, and he actually now, or used to live in the hills here in East Tennessee. Actually, in the county where Joe grew up.
Okay.
Is where he used to live. And, Doug Dorshug.
Uh-huh, right.
And, so they would come to visit, and they were kind of very, like, experientially, just like us.
Right. Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know that they were explicitly as political as, some of us were, but,
right.
They lifestyle-wise, and they just come, and and I just love them because of that, just because I had kind of gotten to know them personally.
Yeah.
And so that had a big impact on me, just getting to know them personally. I will tell you one other issue that did come up at Rounder, which is, Ken and Marion and Bill were all involved in the production angle.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And at one point they told me, came at one meeting, I was sort of told that if I wanted to be, remain in good standing as a collective member, that I would have to be involved.
Right.
In
Okay.
production.
Yeah.
And, I kind of wasn't particularly interested in that. And I remember having a couple conversations with Bill, and, he was kind of encouraging me, because it wasn't like I didn't love the music,
Sure.
especially like Cajun music and stuff like that, and New D.L. Menard and stuff like that. So he was kind of always trying to encourage me get involved. And I guess I was kind of insecure about that.
Okay.
And uncomfortable about it. So that was another issue that was kind of floating around at the time. I mean, I see it in a way as a kind of a smoke screen.
Right.
You know, like, because I think by that time it was becoming clear to Ken and Marion and that, you know, it needed to be just the three of them.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, there was some logic to it. You know, although I think that, you know, it certainly as Rounder developed, you know, there are many different roles for people to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, why does somebody just have to be you know? But if you're the collective and you're making policy and you're generating, you know, rules, whether written or unwritten, you know, then you decide who can be a collective member and who can't be. You know?
Well, it probably, if it was to become when it did become, it probably needed to be the business model that it has become, which is a conventional business model.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I just thought the collective thing was a sham anyway.
Okay.
You know, so I have no. I mean, I'm not saying it was always a sham.
Right.
But it got to the point where it was, I think, just used, you know, like kind of to get rid of Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was my own choice to leave. I mean, I may have been told to leave at some point in the future.
Right.
You know, or whatever.
How did they get rid of Danny, by the way? I don't think you told me that. How did they
I think they gave him some kind of a small buyout.
What was the justification? Since the justification couldn't be we want the money.
I think it was something like that, you know, really, and again, I'm thinking about this now. I haven't thought about it for many years, but
yeah.
It was something like, you know, that he had a special privilege, which in a sense he did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, you know, he was in the same building as Rounder.
Right.
You know, his little area. He didn't have to carry any inventory.
I see.
Because whatever he needed, he could get.
Right.
You know. So he had this whole special privilege which he wouldn't have had if he were on his own.
Right.
You know, across town.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And so, therefore, because he had all this special stuff, then he needed to, you know, it needed to come back into the Rounder fold.
I see. And he wasn't moving in and becoming a collective member.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Were you there for the Thorogood hoopla? You'd left by then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I actually know nothing about it.
Okay.
Other than that there was at one point there was a big discussion about, you know, whether to record him or not.
Right.
And which I think Rounder definitely made the right decision.
Sure.
In spite of my personal opinion.
And which was what? I guess I...
Well, I was just, you know, I always had sort of thought of Rounder as being sort of more traditional music.
I see.
Even though I love rock music. I'm a big fan of rock music, you know.
Right.
I guess I just had this idea, which I think was just a slightly narrow-minded idea.
Well, were you voting by that time, or were you...
No, there was no real vote on it, and it didn't happen until after I left.
That's what I was wondering, when the decision came to make the record.
And
right.
I just voiced my opinion. I remember a couple times that I just didn't think it was a direction that Rounder should go in.
And Bill liked them, and Ken and Marion were kind of uninterested or neutral, or...
Yeah, well, that's my memory of it,
right.
You know, but I think, you know, from a financial point of view...
Yeah.
I mean, there was some risk to be taken because it was a new direction for
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then there was also a direction because there would be financial costs. I mean, you know, Rounder scraped by on its production costs.
Right.
For those years. I mean, it really, you know, we were careful.
Right.
We were really careful, you know, about who we paid and how much we paid, you know, for liner notes and photo albums, Wakefield pressing costs.
Right.
You know, we saved pennies. You know.
Right. And nobody could have predicted the album would sell, of course. That's impossible to predict.
Not really.
Yeah, no.
I don't think so.
Well, let's see. How about J.D. Crowe? Do you remember, was that a project you were involved in at all?
No.
Remember? Okay, or remember that it's a big one for them, but it came within that time frame, but you just might not have been involved.
Yeah, because I wasn't on the production end.
Okay. You know. So the album was largely kind of wash over you, I guess. And is that an accurate statement in terms of what they were? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was not involved in the selection process.
Got it. Okay.
Other than perhaps, you know, a chance discussion or two.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm thinking to myself, I'd like down the line, if as I'm working along here, I come up with something.
You know how to find me.
Yeah.
You got my home email.
Right. Is that the one I've been using?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to say, 'cause, see, I've been on the road, so I've been getting it, in Montana and Idaho and stuff.
Right. What if you...
AK Clinch.
Yeah, that's your house? Yeah, that's your home email. That's what I've been using. Okay. Yeah, as things come up, if I, and I don't do this a lot, I have recontacted people, but I'd like to just feel, we talked about it. And,
so what actually is the substance of your book? The history of Rounder? Or
no, I'm no. Yeah, it's a biography of Bill Nowlin. No, the substance of my book is folk revivalism after the end of the boom. After there was the great folk revival in 1958 and then the early 60s, as exemplified by Club 47, which Bill and Ken cut their teeth in. Yeah. And I shouldn't even say after the boom. The substance of my book is the state of the American folk revival today. Here's my daughter just came home. And honey. Okay. And I wanted to use some post-boom examples that are going strong. And I just have a lot of Rounder records because of my own musical taste, and I knew what they were. I knew about them generally. Yeah. And I said Rounder is a good example because it's still really active, and they've got a lot of this traditional stuff, much of which they still put out, but they've also opened up Zoe Records, which is really putting out college rock albums by rock bands and what have you.
Yeah,
they're really
done,
doing
reggae, Caribbean.
Exactly.
They branched out. I mean, they've been very successful.
So basically, I'm using Rounder Records, and I'm using a trade organization called the North American Folk Music and Dance Alliance, which Ken is active in, the Folk Alliance for short.
I went as an NEA spectator at their initial organizational meeting.
Were you in Malibu?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, boy, I could have another. I've interviewed all the steering committee members who were formed out of that.
The 15 on behalf of NEA Folk Arts panel.
Oh, interesting.
Which was very curious as to what
you were doing there and what. Yeah. Yes, especially given what it's become. I mean, I don't know.
A certain amount of hostility, I would say, directed towards me and Howard Sachs.
Boy, can I have another talk with you? I'm serious.
Well, if you want to.
I interviewed every person who came out of that Malibu meeting as a steering committee member. Sandy Payton, Margot Blevin.
Right. Well, see, now, I know some of those folks, but I went there as kind of, the...
yeah, but you saw the stuff. You saw the dynamic. I wrote a chapter on that dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have much to add, but...
well...
I want to talk about it, but not today.
I understand, and I got, as I said, my daughter just came in, and she's 9. But in any event, so I'm writing about the current state of the Great Folk Revival, which people don't think exists anymore because it ended in 1965. But it exists. There's a huge industry that is devoted avowedly to folk revivalism and people that call themselves folkies. And I'm using Rounder and the Folk Alliance as devices, essentially. Through which I explore issues from a thematic perspective. A thematic perspective. So I'm not going to be writing about Rounder in a strictly linear fashion.
Right.
Although I do that about the beginnings, Ken and Bill meeting in Tufts and what they did. But beyond the point where the label forms, I use Rounder to plug into issues about the current nature of the concept of the folk, the current nature of the idea of tradition, and how this label does it, how the Folk Alliance does it, and so what it looks like in the current scene.
Yeah. Does Rounder still have a policy, do you know, of keeping all its records in print?
No, they don't, because after they switched to CDs, what happened is simply that they did not produce CDs for everything that was there. Right. They transferred a whole lot of stuff, so ultimately the vinyl just disappeared.
Yeah, like E.C. and Ornaball or people like that.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff is not in the catalog anymore. Now, the records are all there, but not enough to put out for sale, and they don't want to go. And so they had to make a decision at some point. Do we reproduce every record we have in a different format? Yeah. And they simply said, no, we don't. We do a lot of them, and then we do new records, and then they're doing these compilations in which they'll take, if somebody's recorded 3 records, they might do a single disc compilation which will not contain every song.
Right.
And they'll market that person. That person will now be represented in their catalog by a compilation. Yeah. So it varies. In some cases, they've got everything out. even from the 70s on CD. Some people are not represented at all, and some are represented just by these compilations.
Yeah. Interesting.
A lot of cassettes are still around, and you can buy them if they've got one. More cassettes than vinyl. They'll sell them.
Yeah.
I ordered a cassette of something that I wanted to hear, the Nick Spitzer Zydeco collection he did in the late 70s for them, and I knew the notes were really cool, so I just bought this cassette through mail order. I didn't get any notes. They just sent me this little square, this little rectangular cassette. Right. So I got an email to Bill Nallen, and I said, "You got my money. Now get yourself to the photocopy machine. give me some notes." And so he did it. He copied the booklet from the vinyl, but they're selling it without the notes, and they don't even say that.
Yeah, I mean, which is one of the, as I told you, one of the things I always thought was cool about Rounder.
Yeah.
Their notes.
Yeah, and it had a lot of notes. But they're not going to package them in this little cassette. I don't even know how you would. But so anyway.
Well, Mike, give me a call sometime.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Bill.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.